Off on another geocaching adventure. Mrs. Pirate was so excited, she was literally shaking. And it didn't take her too long to jump out of the car and go grab a geocache. We just could not rent a four-wheel drive, so this will be our geomobile for this adventure. Nevada sure has a lot of old abandoned mines like this one. Some of the geocaches were basically invisible. There really is a geocache in this bush. Others like this one were very obvious, but rather painful to grab because of the thorns. This guy's giving me the evil eye for invading his space. Not so lucky geocacher? The desert even had a few spots of color to catch your eye. And there's Mrs. Pirate, phoning for a hint on an interesting geocache out in the middle of the desert. There were a couple caches we couldn't get to just because of the deep mud. The desert is usually a quiet place, but when a scorpion is found guarding a cache, the desert comes alive with the sounds of Mrs. Pirate's screams. The temperatures were pretty good on this trip, as they mostly stayed below 100 degrees Fahrenheit. This creature flew in the car window and hit Mrs. Pirate so hard we had to pull over and check for blood. I was laughing, she was almost crying. And there's our picnic basket. Some cachers refer to these big things as desert micros. Surprisingly, our geomobile worked out very good for this trip. Some desert creatures can survive in the desert without taking a cooler full of water, unlike us. Yeah, we weren't the only geocachers staying in Yerington. It was really interesting to come across some of these old abandoned ruins from a long time ago. These guys are usually just a blur out of the corner of my eye, and I feel real lucky when one of them stops long enough to let me take a picture. Yikes, didn't want to piss this guy off. The desert is harsh, yet fragile at the same time. When it's so hot here, it's sure hard to believe there's snow in those mountains. Mrs. Pirate is usually a very good navigator. It's not very often you get to see her do this. Could it be a taxi from years ago? Waiting for the saloon to open? This doesn't happen every day. Geo delay! We had to wait for the cattle drive to pass. It's really hard to believe that somebody actually built their homes here. The land out there is just so unforgiving. This was the first time a pronghorn actually paused long enough for me to snap his photo. They're usually running away at 100 miles an hour. A couple of times we came across a herd of horses out in the wild, but they didn't stick around very long either. Sure looks like a big fat bum to me. ET Highway cache number 2000, that-a-way. This place even had a discount for geocachers. What a nice surprise. Better call 911, we just ran out of geocaches. Didn't get a picture of the two of us in Nevada, so I decided to use a picture from home. There's my well-worn GPS showing we found 3,000 caches so far this trip. Geocache alert! We interrupt this video to bring you the latest from Yerington. Since spring, many new geocaches have been placed in the Yerington area, which means you must return for a second trip. And that is a good thing.